Welcome to our second speaker series for our IB program here at Western. So for those of you who did not attend Tuesday's session, my name is Courtney. I am the IBEC program coordinator here at the Faculty of Education. A little bit about this series. So our speaker series is running for the entire month of December, and we'll be doing a session every Tuesday and Thursday. And that will be up until the IB applications close for our January intake. So that date is the 21st of December. We do have 6 sessions in total with a different guest speaker joining us, and they'll be discussing their experiences in the IB community. Each session is just about 30 minutes in length over lunchtime, at least if you're in Ontario, maybe after work if you're coming from somewhere else. But hopefully you'll learn a little bit more valuable information about IB in general. So this past Tuesday, if you didn't attend, we had Deanna Milne, and she is one of our instructors who was here talking about life as an international teacher and her experiences teaching globally. But for today's session, we have Alex joining us. And Alex is a recent graduate of the IB program. Alex completed the program last month. I think it was October, Alex, that you completed the program. And he'll be able to provide you with some insight into his experience, not only with completing the IB program, but also completing the IB program in conjunction with our Bachelor of Education program. So he was doing both at the same time. So we'll do the session just a little bit differently than last session. I have about 8 to 10 questions that I'm going to be asking Alex, and he'll be responding for you. And then at the end, we'll open the floor for everyone to ask any extra questions that they may have or questions that I didn't ask Alex. So thank you so much, Alex, for taking time out of your day to join us today and talk a little bit about your experiences with the program.
Yeah, of course, anytime.
Well, we'll start with the very first question, and that is, why did you choose Western? So why Western for either the IB program, your BEd program, a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I did my undergrad at Western and born and raised in London, so I was actually only allowed to apply to Western. But I grew up going to Western just on campus because both my grandmother, grandfather, my aunt, my uncle, and then also my mother went to Western. And so naturally the fit was for me to be the third generation to go there. And I chose the BEd program because I was actually the only person in my family to actually get accepted into the BEd program at Western. So I have that up on my family of educators. And then it was also just close to home, and it allowed me just to have that balance of staying at home and then also having my mother very close to me who could advise me of any situations or just experience that she could give me, while also allow me just to stay close to my family as well. But yeah, I think that answers the question. But Western is just kind of known for having phenomenal educational experiences, and that's why I just continue to do my postgraduate stuff there.
Oh, that's wonderful. So then I guess the next question would be, how did you balance the workload with the program and your other commitments? Mm-hmm. So that can either be just the IB workload or the workload in conjunction with the BEd program. Just how did you manage that time commitment?
Yeah, so well, I completed the certificate, the IB certificate, in quarantine lockdown. So I was looking for something to do and just kind of stay sharp with my academic and writing skills. And so as opposed to doing something that was just kind of outside of my educational professional development, I decided to do something that was offered through Western. And so my aunt had already been trained in the International Baccalaureate. And so I asked her, is this a good opportunity? She's like, absolutely. Do it. It's good for your professional development and just get your foot in the door of the international education system. And so I decided to do that. And then, the balance wasn't that bad, actually. It was just more so I would kind of start the day off with maybe looking at an hour or two and trying to get everything sorted out, seeing what I would have to do for the rest of the week, and then trying to adjust everything else and keeping that balance. So the balance was very, very flexible with this program, which I appreciated. And it also allowed me to just kind of dive right into it because I was fortunate enough to have it during the lockdown situation.
Perfect. Now, we do say typically students can expect to devote about 8 to 10 hours per week to the IB certificate. Would you say that that's pretty accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd even say, like, instead of just kind of thinking of it, 8 hours a day, even just looking at it like an hour a day, or just looking at the questions that are necessary to do. accommodating maybe a couple minutes and then working throughout the day. That way it doesn't become like a huge chunk that you can just kind of do it. You can kind of space it out throughout the week so that you can make it more manageable.
Perfect. So then I guess that leads into the next question is, what did a typical week look like in the IB program? How was that structured for you?
Yeah, so it was very, very structured, but also the structure allowed for a lot of versatility and flexibility to it. So the week would normally start off with you'd get like a PowerPoint presentation with a voiceover from the instructor typically, and then they'd say, okay, so throughout this week, we're going to be learning about this principle or this concept for the IB series. And then on Monday, that would be open up, so then we'd view that, and then you'd have certain tasks that you're trying to complete throughout the week. Typically in first year teachers college, it would be similar to that, and then the assignment or discussion post or whatever it was would be due the Sunday after midnight or at midnight. And then I actually asked my instructor, I said, like, when is everything due? And she said, try and typically get everything done by Wednesday. That way you allow your colleagues to try and get their input, and then you can start a conversation, and then that can be carried out throughout the week, and then you can kind of bounce off ideas. And so it allowed for everything to try and be completed by Wednesday, which I found very manageable. Again, allocating about an hour to a day and just breaking it up throughout the day made it very, very manageable and very easy to try and tackle. So I would try and complete everything by Wednesday. If for whatever reason I had to complete it Thursday or leave it the last minute on Sunday, it was also flexible enough to do that.
And what type of work were you doing? You said you had some forum posts, so responding to those and some assignments as well?
Yeah. So an example of a forum post, I was just looking at it before I signed on. So an example of a forum post would be, how has your educational philosophy changed throughout the duration of the course? And so I had already kind of formed an educational philosophy because that was one of the assignments in first year teachers college. So I kind of had a template of my principles that I wanted to practice if I was to go into education afterwards. And so that would be an explanation. And then you're normally required to respond to one of your colleagues and their educational philosophy, because normally they differ. And there are also people that were in the program that had various years of experience, like 33 years, and also some that were 5 years experience. So it was good to try and to read that and just kind of take bits and pieces from everyone. And so then they normally comment, and then they say, oh, Alex, I like how you mentioned this particular educational philosophy statement. I wonder what you think of this educational philosophy. And then that's how the conversation would start. And then you normally respond throughout the week.
Okay, perfect. And how did you enjoy working with the faculty members? So for those of you who maybe don't know, with the IB program, it is 4 modules in total, and you may be working with different faculty members in each module, especially as you split off into your specialized subject areas in 2 and 3 for those modules. So I'm just curious to know how it was working with the different faculty members.
No, it was great, actually. I was very impressed with how knowledgeable they were with the teaching profession in general, and then also the IB philosophy and the IB curriculum. Very, very impressive with how they were able to make it into understandable manners for us who, specifically for me, a young educator who isn't graduated yet, still in teachers college and still trying to learn the dynamics of the profession, but also making it into terms that I could apply it and understand it, and then try and express my knowledge to the best of my ability. So they were very, very approachable and very, very flexible with the certain timelines. For example, if people had families and job, work-life balance, with that, they were very, very open to saying, hey, if you need an extension or if you need justification or clarification with anything, please feel free to let me know. Not a problem with anything. So I was very reassuring on my end that, okay, I don't have to necessarily work day and night to try and get something completed. If necessary, I can kind of take a break, and then they understand, obviously. So that was a very, very appealing process for that.
And then did you find it okay having to switch maybe from different instructor styles? So from, I believe in your intake, your instructor was the same for module 1 and 4, and then you had the same instructor for module 2 and 3. How did you find that kind of going from different instructors throughout the course? It
was a good adjustment. It was a welcomed adjustment, I would say. So each module is about five weeks. So by the 5th week, you're pretty used to it and how the instructor teaches. And then my 2nd and 3rd module with 2 different instructors, and I really enjoyed their teaching style, and they offered an interesting intake on their different philosophies and their different assignments and forum posts. with that regard. So it was great. And then obviously came full circle again, which I had my fourth module with the same instructor I had in first module. So it was a great change, and it was a great dynamic between all the instructors, learning from them.
How are you finding online learning? So our certificate program is developed not because of COVID to be online. It was developed before that to be online. So I'm curious to know how you're finding online learning and if you think it's a valuable skill for teacher candidates.
Yeah, in undergrad, I had a couple online courses, and I enjoyed it because it allowed me to try and set my own schedule. But also with setting your own schedule, you have to have the structure of it. But this program specifically, it was very, very structured, and it told you how to do certain things and how to chunk it properly, which I appreciated. And in terms of like the umbrella term of online learning, I really like it because it allows me just to focus in the comfort of my own home and my own space, and I can complete it whenever necessary. And it also just allows me to kind of hone in everything and do it at my own leisure, which I appreciate. And I do believe that it's very, very necessary teaching online. And obviously with the COVID situation, I think online learning is kind of the future, especially with my mother saying, you know what, just get internationally trained and also know how to do things online because it's a very valuable skill. And that seems to be where education is learning. So I think kind of getting your foot in the door as early as possible is very beneficial.
Now, I don't know if you'll be able to answer this question, but I am going to ask it just because you're in a little bit of a different situation where COVID did happen. So you were able to take your BEd online as well as the IB online. How do you think it would be for those when, and hopefully when the world goes back to normal, having to complete BEd on campus and then doing the certificate online? Do you think that would flow? Is that an okay workload wise?
I definitely think it's a doable workload, absolutely. Well, you definitely do have to be organized with it. Like I said, allocating about an hour or two a day for the certificate, I think would allow you to complete it. It would be extra work, absolutely, but definitely think it's doable. However, knowing me, I think it would be a bit of a challenge, just if I'm being honest. It would be a challenge for me because a lot of the questions kind of pertain to you kind of being an experienced teacher or having experience in the teaching profession a little bit and having your educational philosophy and your pedagogy principles kind of already developed for the most part. However, in first year, that's when you're trying to just soak everything up and then you're still developing everything and trying to get used to the profession and the dynamics of it. So I think it would be a bit of a juggling act, but I definitely think it's doable. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so you think it'll be difficult for a first year candidate, doable, but because you were in second year, you had those philosophies that you were able to kind of correlate the two programs together.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Are you feeling prepared to enter a classroom as a teacher?
I do feel prepared to an extent because I do have some practicum experience under my belt, and I was fortunate enough to have good associate teachers in my practicum who were very knowledgeable and has helped me. And I was fortunate enough to have an experience before COVID and then during COVID as well. So I think I know how to do some of those safety precautions, but I think I would prefer to have a little bit more experience with all the safety precautions and knowing how to deal with that on my own, because I did have the associate teacher supervising me in that situation. So definitely more experience and just kind of more being absorbed into the atmosphere more, I think would benefit for me.
Perfect. And you're done your BEd program, I think in April. You're still currently completing your BEd program.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Did you have a chance to network with your classmates? So how was that within the IB program, that networking ability?
Yes, yeah. We had in the first module, we did have to make a unit of inquiry plan, and we were paired with one of our colleagues in our specific program, and that we had to work online together. That was a bit of a difficult situation because it being an international program. My partner was from Korea, so trying to balance that the different time zones was a little bit difficult. And then I believe in my second module, we had a Zoom meeting with all of us. And I think there was a total of maybe 8 of us. So it was a very small, tight-knit group, which I appreciated. So we kind of got comfortable. And it was also great the Zoom meeting to kind of put a face to everyone who we were just commenting on the discussion posts with. So the networking opportunities were there. It was just a little difficult because everyone was trying to balance their own work life and then trying to manage this course and then trying to manage COVID precautions and everything like that. But yes, the opportunities were definitely there.
Do you feel after taking the program and having had some of those networking opportunities, you'd feel comfortable reaching out to fellow classmates or instructors as resources in your future career?
Absolutely, yeah, without hesitation, absolutely. There were many people in my group specifically who had several years of IB training, and they were just doing this as an additional qualification. And then there are also new students who were fresh into the teaching profession like me. So it was great to have a large spectrum of educators there. And then also actually one of my instructors, I asked to be one of my supervisors for a alternative field experience hours for me. And I felt very, very comfortable asking her if she could be my supervisor for those hours. And she did not hesitate to do that. So I was very, very comfortable approaching them, and they're very, very approachable. So it was, yeah, absolutely. It was great.
Great, I'm glad to hear. Well, I guess my final question for you is, do you have any recommendations for aspiring or future teachers who are preparing to take the IB certificate program?
Yeah, I'd say get comfortable with the uncomfortable and challenge yourself as much as possible. I think getting your foot in the door with any professional development is important. And as educators, you'll learn if you're in first year, second year, or if you've had 33 years on your belt, that you're always learning in this profession, and that this profession is a lifelong learning profession. And so if you can be in teachers college and improve your professional development, I think that's great. And this certificate offers that. So why not take it? Yeah, if you can learn more, why not? It's not going to hurt you by any means. And I think this is a very, very beneficial career and a very, very beneficial certificate to do.
That's great. Thank you so much, Alex, for answering some of those questions. We have a couple of minutes, so are you okay answering some questions from some of the people that have attended today?
Certainly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We'll open the floor up.
I'm going to jump in, if that's okay, just to ask the question. Gavin had typed it to me because I think his internet connection isn't great. But I will also unmute everyone now. So if you do have a question, for sure, jump in. But he was asking, and I think you talked about this a little bit, Alex, but maybe you can elaborate. Are there any synchronous sessions? So like you said that there was the time you were on Zoom with some classmates. I think he was just wondering, is there like available time to have that kind of communication either over Zoom or anything like that within the program?
There was never synchronous. It was always asynchronous. But the professors were always available during our designated time. There wasn't like a designated time, say like you have to be in or logged on from 3:30 to 2:30 or 2:30 to 3:30. There was never anything like that. So it was completely self-taught in that sense, but they were always available if you needed clarification with anything.
And did you have a Zoom meeting in some of yours where you did get to meet everybody?
Yes, yeah. In our second module, we got to meet everyone and got to put a face to the individuals. And I think the reason that it wasn't synchronous was because of the time difference, because people were in Thailand, China, Korea, BC, so the time difference would not have allowed for that. And that's why it was great, because it was so flexible.
You said you've got 4 modules. You get 4 modules, Alex. How much units do you get in the modules?
How many units per se?
Yeah, well, you just get modules. Do you have like units in each module?
It wasn't necessarily broken up into modules. It was broken up into weeks. So,
okay.
So each module was about 4 to 5 weeks, and then you'd have about a week's worth of stuff to do. And then you complete the first week 1, say, and then you move on to second week, and then 3, 4, 5, and then you're done that module. And then normally at the end of each module, you would have like a final assignment or a final paper or a final unit plan creation or something like that.
And do you have electronic libraries?
Not necessarily electronic libraries. Everything, resources that we needed to complete the questions or the weekly work was all provided on OWL or on the online session. So we didn't need like online libraries necessarily. So they would provide us with the documents that were necessary. And then they would also say, okay, if you're looking for this question, it would be on pages 45 to 55. So that you're not looking through the entire document and trying to scroll through it.
And Tracy,
also,
I'll jump in.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, I'll jump in a little bit there too, because when you are enrolled into the program, you do have access to all of IB's resources. So you will set up an account with IB and you'll have access to their resources should you wish to use it.
And how much words do you get for an essay?
That's an excellent question. I think I only had to do maybe 2 essays, and I think the maximum was about 1,500 words.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, so
Now
it's
keep in
not like
mind
you're writing.
yeah, and you'll have different instructors too, Tracy. So keep in mind it could differentiate depending on your specific instructors for your specialization.
Mhm.
Yeah, Alex,
And
you would have had 2 instructors.
yes, and normally the essay would be like kind of, you would have built towards that essay. So it's not like you're just pulling from straws. So everything that you would have done from week 1 would have worked towards your progression and completing that towards the final week.
And what subject did you specialize in?
I studied the PYP, so the primary years program.
And what do you get in the primary years?
What do I get specifically?
Yeah, what subjects do you get? Do you have to do English, math, science, humanities? Do you have to cover all of that, or do you cover one subject?
You don't necessarily cover the specific subject. It's more of the teaching philosophy and then how to implement that teaching philosophy. So I didn't necessarily have to teach math or English or anything like that. It's more so how the curriculum works and how you can implement that, because it is so generalized. And so we allowed, we had that was called like a unit of inquiry, for example. And so we got to pick what subject that was for. And then you can, how do I explain this? And then you can kind of specify it towards whatever subject you want it to. So it's not like we're learning any different subjects.
So is it cross curriculum?
Not necessarily, no, it can be, but it's more so just learning the curriculum and the philosophy of how to teach the IB way, not necessarily learning the IB English or IB math, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the PYP isn't as specialized into specific subjects like MYP or DP would. So when you are in MYP or DP, you would pick that
specific
you'd
subject.
pick a specific subject. So in modules 2 and 3, you would break into those smaller subjects. PYP breaks into kindergarten to grade 2 or grade 3 to grade 5. So it is more of that philosophy at that age range. So it is a little different between the 2 streams.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, if I can add to that, it's more so geared towards the student as the inquirer and trying to embrace the inquiry process. And so that's where they really hammer home the inquiry process and letting the student just explore themselves and explore the environment around them. And then,
is that what they do in the early years?
Yes, correct. Yes. So that's what they're trying to.
And year 3 and like grade 3, grade 4, grade 5, they do the same thing.
Yes. And then it gets more specified as they increase the age groups. But yes, at the beginning of the ages, that's where they're really trying to hone in the self-inquiry and then exploring themselves in the universe and then exploring different cultures, international experiences, traditions.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be a typical day for you have you been in a school yet?
No, I haven't been in an international baccalaureate school, no.
Is that what you're gearing towards?
Yes, yeah. I'm trying to see what that would be like. But I can give you an example of a typical day for a grade 1. I've been in a grade 1 practicum, if you'd like. It's not necessarily international baccalaureate geared towards that. But so grade 1, typically you welcome the kids in, and then we would normally start with a word of the day. So the word of the day would be it, and then you kind of allow the students to create ideas of having the sentences. Okay, what words can you have with it? And then you give them a sheet, and then that works towards them writing sentences with that word. And then it could change the next day to a number of the day, for example. And then that's kind of how it works. So I would teach, and then they would teach with me, and then I let them do it on their own. And then if they have questions, then I'd be there just to kind of facilitate that. But the IB system is a little different, where it's like they want the individual to explore themselves, and then if they have questions, then we're there as the educators to try and facilitate their exploration.
All right, like Montessori.
I wasn't at Montessori, but yes, similar to Montessori, yes.
Rudolf Steiner as well.
I'm not entirely sure, but it's similar philosophies, yes.
All right, okay. All right.
Alex, I have a question just out of curiosity from hearing you speak. Are you interested in teaching like IB internationally or domestically, or like you're just finishing up your BEd? So what would be kind of like your dream gig after this, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what my dream gig would be, but I definitely want to try and teach internationally. So I have family in St. Lucia, and I have dual citizenship there. My mother actually taught in St. Lucia in the primary years. And so I'd love to just try and go there with, well, for one, the sun, tough to complain with the sun. And then just also seeing what the experience like is there. My aunt is on one of the boards for the international schools, so I'd like to just try and see the differences and seeing how I can actually implement the IB curriculum in there, and then taking also what I've learned from the Ontario curriculum, and then just trying to find like a good medium of how to teach that's appropriate for me and that's true to like my teaching style. So I think just trying to teach anywhere, I think is kind of my goal for now. Dream job, not necessarily sure right now.
Well, we have one more minute if anybody has any last minute questions for Alex. But if not, we also have our, what day are we today? Thursday. So on Tuesday is our next speaker series with Ildiko. Ildiko is another one of our actual instructors as well here at the Faculty of Education. She'll be a little bit on the flip side to Deanna, where she has built her career globally, but she's working IB schools more domestically, and she has that background. So that's the next session there. But if we have any last minute questions for Alex about the actual program and being in it, if you have one more minute or so, Alex, that'd be great.
No problem.
How long did it take you to finish the course?
It was about 4 months. So each module was about a month.
It took you 4 months?
Yes.
Then you were certified?
Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You're online more quickly, isn't it?
Yes, correct. So you had to complete one module, and then each module is again 4 to 5 weeks. And then you typically had a break of a week, and then you go back to the next module, 4 to 5 weeks, week break, 4 to 5 modules. So it's just kind of one fell swoop. You just keep going at it. Is
it a lot of reading? Have you got to do all the legislation or framework and all that as well?
Not necessarily. The supplementary resources are there. However, you can look at the resources, and then the instructors typically tell you what pages to look for the specific answers to complete the questions. But if you want to do additional reading, the opportunity is there.
Perfect. All right. Well, we are at 1 o'clock, so the 30 minutes is up already. Alex, thank you so much for taking time to just talk about your experiences with the program and what that was like for you. We really appreciate that. And thank you to the two of you for joining today. I know we had Gavin here at one point, but thank you so much for coming and for listening and learning a little bit more. Feel free to reach out with any other questions that you have. Amber, if you wanted to put our email address just in the chat so you have, and we're always happy to help.
Okay, we'll see you Tuesday.
Perfect, see you Tuesday.
All right then, take care. Have a wonderful weekend.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.